Good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning back in to another episode of Rusty Wrenches. Glad you guys are here. Really appreciate it. It is a bright and early, beautiful Saturday morning out here. I got up nice and early before any of the kiddos or anything, try to get some work done because today is the big day. We're going to start assembly and putting the 327 back together. I got the new bearings and everything. They are the right size. Yes. So let's jump right in. We have a ton of work to do and I'm doing it by myself as usual. So let's get started putting this thing back together, getting all the new bearings in it. You know how all that goes. You saw all that with the 350. So let's start flying through it. So, with all the new main bearings put in and all the new bearings put in the main caps, it's time to start assembling. I got to clean up the crankshaft a little bit just because it's been sitting on my shelf for a little bit and I've blown out the garage a couple times. But then we're going to get to started dropping the crank in this thing. I should have taken out stock in jegs, apparently. I bought so much stuff recently that they sent me a free hat even, which I'm a hat guy, so that was pretty exciting. This thing is going to be getting all new bolts as well. I'm going to treat this guy a little nicer than I treated the 350. We did reuse the main bolts. I did use a couple of the old head bolts on the 350, but that was just strictly to hold the heads from falling off. Otherwise, I threw most of them away because I wanted the guy to make sure he put in fresh bolts. But this thing will be getting all new main bolts and all new head bolts. They're somewhere in this mountain of boxes here. So let me hunt those down quick and we'll get ready to start actually throwing parts back into this block here. Before I throw these away, I wanted to show you guys the condition of our main bearings. Might be a little tough to see in the camera, but you can see that we had brass starting to come through, which means these things were definitely worn out, definitely due to be replaced. So it's actually it's a good thing we did because these main bearings were worn out. It was only a matter of time before one of them gave out and potentially wreck the whole motor or wreck the crank, something like that. So it's a good thing we did this. Alright, just going to go ahead and get any debris wiped off of this thing from sitting. Despite what the main bearings looked like, they were still bearing because the crankshaft journals and everything on the shaft look really nice. I'm not seeing any damage, any scoring or anything, any pitting. And put a bunch of assembly lube on the journals of the crank too. I probably used entirely too much, but when it comes to lube, I mean, if some is good, more is better, right? That's what the rule is. Something like that. Alright, with the crank in, let's go ahead and start installing the main caps. We'll get those all installed with the new bolts. I got new main bolts from ARP, and we'll do them in sequence, obviously, to make sure that there's no binding, make sure the crank turns nice and smooth all the way through the sequence, and we'll get them all torqued down to 70 foot-pounds. That's per Google. You car guys, I mentioned this in the 350 video. Take it up with Google, okay? Quit yelling at me. All right, now with the crankshaft installed, it's time to move on to pistons. I'm going to go ahead and jump into getting all the connecting rod bearings swapped out with the fresh ones, and we'll get to start throwing pistons into this thing. All right, something I also forgot to mention that I'm going to be doing while I'm in here doing all of the connecting rod bearings is we will get all of the new rings installed. These are obviously, as I've mentioned many times, getting all fresh rings. That was part of the whole point of doing all this. And then once we have the rings installed, all these pistons will be fully ready to be reinstalled. Once we have them installed is when I'll do the cleaning on the piston heads themselves. We'll just bring them up level with the deck, and I'll just kind of hit them with a wire wheel. While I have the rings out is when I'll kind of clean up the sides and the skirts here. The skirts aren't honestly that bad, and the rest of the pistons aren't that bad either. So just a little wire wheeling once they're in the motor just to make it easier on me because I'm lazy. So lots of little tedious work here. Let's get to work. Now, before I went any further installing any more rings into the pistons, I did take just a moment here to square up one of the rings in our bore itself to double check the gap. These rings were pre-filed for a 4-inch standard bore, and we were indeed well within specs that we needed, so we were good to go to continue our installation onto our actual pistons. Okay, got all the fresh rings and new bearings in these pistons here. I did take some steel wool pad that I had, some steel wool pads, and get all the piston heads kind of cleaned up. We'll probably still take a wire brush to them once we get them installed, but that was a long, tedious process. But now that that's done, let's get to start slamming these things in here. I'd like to get the rotating assembly put back together before my wife and I take the kiddos up to the fair today. So let's get cracking. Alright, all the pistons are installed. Everything went together fantastic. We didn't get any binding, and everything still rotates nice and smooth, so we are in good shape there. Next thing I want to do, let's get the bottom end closed up. We're going to go ahead and put a brand new oil pump on this thing with a fresh pickup tube, brand new oil pan, fresh gasket, all that good stuff to get that bottom end closed up. Then we'll move on to things like getting the cam reinstalled, all the lifters, the timing set, all that good stuff. installed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we absolutely thrashed on this motor this morning. Super happy with everything we got done. We got the whole lower rotating assembly in. I mean, we got the crank in, we got pistons in, we got new rings on the pistons, we got new bearings all the way through, connecting rods, main bearings. We got the new oil pump on, we got the new oil pan on, everything's bolted down, closed up. That's gonna do it for today. I think that's a good spot to stop. My wife and I are gonna pack the kids up. We're gonna head up to the fair, enjoy some of the festivities up there. But tomorrow, bright and early, we're gonna be back on the 327, finishing up all the rest of the assembly we got. We still got cam to do, we got timing to do, we gotta put the heads on, I got a new intake manifold to put on, I got a whole new set of rockers to put on the valve train yet. We have a ton to do, but I'm hoping we can crank out all that in the morning there. That's gonna do it for today. We'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the garage. It's a beautiful Sunday morning now, still bright and early. Might have some weather moving in, kind of windy out. Anyway, you didn't come here to talk about the weather. You came here to talk about this 327 here. We got a ton done on it yesterday. I'm super excited about all that. We got the entire lower rotating assembly in there, all the pistons in. You know, you were there. You know, you helped me with it. But we still have a ton of work to do today. We got to get these heads on. We got to get the cam in this thing, all the lifters, the timing set. I got work to do on the valve train. We got a lot to do before we hear this thing fire up. So, first things first, I got to clean up a little bit. I got a teetotal mess going on around here. But once we do that, I'm going to get these heads off these stands and onto this table here and go ahead and just kind of hit the bottom of them with a wire wheel. I was going to go all out at the beginning of this project and lap the valves. I'm not going to do that. We'll save that for another project. The valves are valving just fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So let's get into that. Like as I mentioned, we got a lot of work to do. Let's get cracking. All right, change of plan. Forget what I said about the valves and the heads and the valve train and everything. We're gonna move on to putting the cam in. I wanna get this cam installed and the lifters in because one, I want them off my toolbox before something bad happens and I knock those lifters all out of order and all over the floor. It's honestly a small miracle that that hasn't happened yet because they've been sitting like that for weeks now. And two, and honestly the most prominent reason being, I forgot that I'm out of brake clean. I looked all over the place, thought I had another can left, and I don't. And brake clean would make the job of cleaning those heads up much easier. And O'Reilly's doesn't open for another half hour yet. So, figured we kill a little bit of time, we can get this cam and the lifters installed. This is a Lunati bare bones cam. Interesting little fact is that you can't get these anymore. From what I can tell, Lunati has discontinued them, and when you go and find them on Summit or Jegs, they all say back ordered and or discontinued. So, which is kind of a bummer. I was going to get another one of these for my dad's 65 Impala when we ended up doing that project, but that's not happening anymore. Jegs does make kind of an equivalent. It's got a similar lift and duration. It's branded with the Jegs logo on it, but from what I can tell, it's basically the same cam. So, but that's for another day. Let's go ahead and slam this cam in and the lifters, and we'll see what time it is. We may even just jump straight to getting the timing chain set in here as well, and then we can get the front end of the motor closed up, and then we can move on to heads. So that might be the better route anyway. Voila, just like that, we got a new timing chain set installed. This is a double roller timing chain kit from Howard Cams. They make really nice stuff. Cool thing about their kits is that their crankshaft gears actually come with 3 different keyways you can use to advance or retard your valve timing via the camshaft. We're obviously just using the old standard 0 OEM timing because we don't need anything crazy, but you do have an advancement that will advance your camshaft from your crank 4 degrees, or obviously the opposite 4 degrees down here, depending on what kind of performance you're looking for. But there we are. Let's go ahead and get the timing cover on this thing, get this front buttoned up, and on to the next thing. Well, we got the front end of this motor buttoned up as much as it can be for now. I was mistaken because it's Sunday. Neither the hardware store nor O'Reilly's opens until 9 a.m. So we've still got some time to kill. So in the meantime, I'm just going to take a wire wheel to some of these mating surfaces, i.e. the head gasket areas, the china walls, make sure everything's good and cleaned up for when we start really throwing accessories and parts on this thing here. So I'm just going to do that for a little bit to kill some time. I will be right back with you guys as soon as I'm back from town with the brake clean and a couple other little things that we need. So hang tight. We'll see you in a bit. Another thing we can do while we're waiting for town to open up is go ahead and get our new oil filter adapter installed. It's from Transdapt. It's a relief valve body that's designed to adapt this block to take a spin-on oil filter like a modern oil filter, as opposed to what it's currently set up for, which is one of those large canister, almost like you'd find on like a skid steer, Bobcat, that kind of thing. It's a large canister filter. It's kind of a pain in the butt when you're changing the oil and it's messy. And just so for ease of maintenance down the road, I went ahead and got one of those. Let's get that installed. Well, something like that. I'm going to wait to tighten down the flange nut and everything so I can get the nipple length correct. I'm going to wait to do that until I've got the oil filter that's going to go on it. And we'll thread it on, make sure we get a good seal, that I got enough threads here, and then we'll tighten down the flange nut to hold everything together. But that's essentially all that is, just a conversion kit to go to a spin-on oil filter. So there you go. Okay, back from the parts store with all the brake clean we could ever need or want. So let's get going on getting these heads cleaned up. Get them all ready to go on. We got a lot of carbon buildup, but that's normal with how kind of dirty this engine had been running. So. making excellent headway on this thing. As you guys can see, I'm super happy with our progress. The heads are on. They're just tamped down with a couple of bolts on each side just to keep them from falling off in case I forgot that they weren't bolted on and flipped this motor over or something. That'd be something I would do. There is a torque sequence we got to follow to torque these heads down. And then we're going to move on to the valve train. I got brand new rockers that are going to go on here, and we'll get the push rods in and everything like that. So let's get moving. Okay, so I thought before we move forward, I'd give you guys a little comparison. So here are the original rockers that are coming off. You can see they're the original cast stamped body style rocker. You can see we got some pretty significant wear where they've been sitting on those springs for all those years and all those miles. So to help out with that, we are going to these. These are the new same style OEM kind of cast body style. But you can see here they have a roller on the end of them that will make contact with the top of the valve spring and drastically reduce the kind of wear that we have in the rest of the valve train. So that's what we're moving forward with. Let's go ahead and start slamming these in. Alright, well, I've been just banging away on this thing. All of the new rockers are installed, and I just went through and performed preloading of the valve train. I use the good old zero lash method. For those of you who don't know, that's when once you have everything kind of started, you rotate the motor a quarter turn, and each quarter turn you tighten down your rocker stud nuts until you have zero vertical movement. They will still rotate and spin in your fingers, but you should have zero vertical up and down movement with your push rods. You do that back and forth, turn the motor another quarter turn, do it again, another quarter turn, yada yada. You should do 4 full rotations of the motor, and then once that's all done, you give every rocker stud a half turn, and that's it, you're preloaded. So valve train is all ready to go, fully preloaded. We're at top dead center. We can go ahead and I think get ready to throw on our intake manifold. Before we go ahead and install the intake manifold, we're going to put oil in this thing. We're going to put the oil that the engine is going to run with in, and I want to do that before we install the intake manifold because I want to pour the oil all throughout the valley pan here to make sure that everything, all the lifters and all the lifter bores, everything gets a good even coat and all the oil can settle to the bottom of the motor evenly and kind of hopefully give everything a nice coat. Ultimately, I know these lifters won't fill up, and there's a couple other spots that won't get oil until the motor is under oil pressure, which of course before we run the motor we do have the old hot rod trick, an old distributor that we welded a nut onto the top of, so you can actually chuck it into a drill and turn the oil pump to pressurize to pump the oil throughout the motor before you run it. So we'll do that, but before we put the intake on, let's put the oil in it. Before we do that, I have a new dipstick that we're going to install to make sure we don't have any leaks there, and then we'll move on to the intake manifold. I almost forgot, we still need to adjust our oil filter adapter and install an oil filter. That would have been a mess. And the oil we're going to be using is this VP Racing API SN motor oil. Always perfect in speed necessity. It's probably what that means. But this stuff is really good. It's 20W50, really good for hot rod engines, classic motors in general. This is what I have been running in this thing in the past. So that's what we're going to continue to run in it. Look at that. Perfect. Let's go ahead and get some oil in this thing. Before I add any more, we'll go ahead and make sure we don't have any leaks so far. Get a couple other things prepped. We're getting to the cool stuff. I'm getting excited now. This is our intake manifold, our new Edelbrock Performer EPS with the oil fill tube. And I was going to kind of go away from this. The old intake manifold that was on this, the other Edelbrock that I have, I put on there purposely to get away from this. But I kind of like the nostalgia factor. I love the classic look that it brings. But it's also a necessity for our current situation because the valve covers I have for this thing, you guys have maybe seen them sitting in the background. I won't show them to you yet because they're kind of the chef's kiss, if you know what I mean. I'm really excited about them, but they don't have a breather nor an oil fill slot in the valve covers. So we needed a place to put oil in, obviously. So this was the obvious way to go for me. I love Edelbrock intakes. So I got a couple of doodads and stuff to swap over from the old one onto this. I do have a new thermostat housing to put on it. We got some carburetor studs we'll install, those kind of things. And then a couple of plugs that we need in some certain spots. Okay, so I took the liberty of going ahead just slapping the water pump on, and that ain't nothing special. But now comes the tricky part. Not necessarily tricky, because I mean I've already got a fallback system that we can go on to, but putting this alternator on. This is an aftermarket head bracket from ICT that I had on the build previously. But I've also got, as you guys saw, I'm sure in the background, a Gilmer drive setup going on. And already running into problems. It's coming back to me why I couldn't mount this pulley directly to the crank or to the balancer, because with this style water pump that these motors have, you can clearly see we've got a alignment issue. And that was also compounded by this mount, which mounts here, which I also do not believe is in line. Now that might be in line with the water pump. So I do have a set of spacers that I ran on these with some longer bolts. It's not exactly the safest thing to do, but this motor also isn't turning at 9,000 RPM and pushing 500 horsepower. So I'm not too worried about this coming off. So we might just have to go back to my spaced out setup, which I guess is fine. I just thought maybe I could re-engineer it, but with this water pump in here, there's no way that that's happening. So we're gonna go ahead and get this installed the old-fashioned way, the way that I already engineered it once to do. those of you who have watched some of my older material may notice that with this rebuild, I'm also redoing a bunch of stuff that I have undoed before. If you guys, as I mentioned, watched the older stuff and watched my C10 to-do list video with my buddy Dominic, one of the things on that to-do list was taking this Gilmer drive off. I've since had a change of heart, clearly. Come off of here. God. Not that one. I got more tools laying around. Boy, those didn't like that. Goodness me. So, we need to go from this to this. Yeah. Everything is fine though. Oh wow, these are like threaded through the aluminum now. I don't recall this being a problem last time. Oh, unless I used those. No, that wouldn't make sense, would it? No, it's definitely those. This is definitely how these go. I'm super confused right now. These are the bolts that I had before. It's ponderous. Well, I guess we'll just have to pour them out a little bit. Quit screwing around, man. Wasting time. Well, that wasn't so hard. We're back. Whoa. Wow. What's happening here? Reinstalled. A little bit wacky, but hey, it gets the job done. Yeah, and this has to go like this, and that kind of lines up. I could use a spacer in there, that would be brilliant, which actually I think I have. I can put this backwards, and then that should hold that off far enough. Wow, it's almost perfect! Then I tighten one, another one comes looser. Not bad. And it looks like we might even line up pretty decent. Let's put the belt on and see what happens. Suck it in a little bit. A little bit more. There we go. The trick was getting enough of the turnbuckle out to get this thing to tighten up last time. That's what I do remember. And this was coming mighty close to the side of the truck. But we're starting to tighten up here. We won't know for sure until the engine turns with it on it, but I currently have the motor set at TDC, so I don't really want to turn it. Yeah, that's not too bad. Alright. Starting to look like a hot rod now. Oh. Yeah, we're a little heavy over here on this side. Alright, well after we got the pulley system on, I went ahead and just threw on the oil pump real quick. That ain't nothing special. And I went ahead and threw on the motor mounts as well so I don't forget them, because that would be my luck, because we'd be lowering into the truck and I'd have to go, whoa, 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 whoa. We don't have any way to mount this thing. So we got the motor mounts back on it as well. But I think you can feel where I'm going with this. That's going to do it for this episode of Rusty Wrenchers. We just smooth ran out of time. We got a absolute ton done. I'm super excited. The motor is 99% put together, minus the couple of covers, the carburetor, all that good stuff, getting it connected into the truck. You know, that's the last 1% of getting here. But we destroyed this build, and I'm super excited with how much we got done in the amount of time we had. Contrary to some of the other guys on YouTube, I am very part-time mechanic. Had to take some breaks. We just had stuff going on. Did not have enough time to get this thing fully assembled by myself and put in the truck. But you guys know what that means. You'll just have to tune in next time as we finally get the 327 fresh build back in the C10 and hear it bark off. It's gonna be awesome. I'm super excited for you guys to see it and be a part of it. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this video again. I really appreciate you guys. And as always, we will see you guys next time.